So I hope everybody can hear me well. Welcome to the new year and our very first webinar this year, Advancing Your LCA and EPD Journey in 2026 with an EPD and DPP roadmap. I'm really happy that together with my co-founder Florian, we're doing this today. You will hear some things from the technical and the product perspective, but also some things from the market perspective in this webinar. We'll be focusing or starting with a quick introduction of EMIDAT. I know most of the people in the room do know us quite well, so we'll go pretty quickly through this. We will then look into the 2026 industry roadmap, so what is coming up. And then we will also talk you through what is coming up for EMIDAT in 2026 and what can you expect from us. So let's get started. We are recently called Climate Native Product Management. So we moved away from the framing of climate intelligence for construction. And this is intentional because we realized that now increasingly, especially as the digital product passport is coming up, we are more and more seeing that our customers actually start using the environmental data to make it really core of their product processes. So now there's attendees joining, but Steph, you're taking care. Perfect. And this is why we said, okay, actually what it is it is becoming a core component of product profiles and product management. And this can be in many ways. It can be either using the environmental data and bringing it over to the own system. It can also be within the platform doing a full DPP modeling. And our mission, as always, but we'll talk about this more, has been we make it a business value to produce and provide sustainable materials. So this fits in really, really well. So introducing EMIDAT quickly. For those of you who have known us for a while, there has been quite a development happening since the beginning of last year. We were still a pretty small company with 30 customers. Now we're at over 150. Beginning of last year, we were still very much focused on the cement and concrete sector with about 6-7 product groups implemented. We're now at 55, and also all of them are either already verified or in verification processes. So we've really quite quickly verified many product groups across different industries, but always focused on building materials at the core. We also started structured feedback with our customers and are now from 0 to 10 at a 9.3 average rating in terms of customer happiness. And we have spread it quite quickly. We are, as a team, all based in Europe, but our customers are now in over 20 countries, still mostly Europe, but also a little bit in the United States and also in Japan and Singapore, interestingly. So really great developments also to see in the industry. And now I'm handing over to Florian for our mission and the next section.
Okay, great. Taking over the audio here. I hope that works, sitting in the same room. Happy New Year, everybody. Also great to be connected here, at least online. Iterating back on why we do what we do. So the mission of EMIDAT has been since the very beginning that we as EMIDAT help you as a manufacturer to make it a business value to actually produce and provide sustainable materials. We do believe that with EPDs in the beginning and now the environmental data in more general that we do provide, that we do help you as a manufacturer to really make it a business value to produce and provide these materials. We believe that right now is the time, really the window of opportunity, so the time for you to act and to really be ahead in the market and of the competition, to show the market that you are the ones caring about sustainability and caring about the sustainable materials. And hence we do believe that now is the time to get started and to scale your efforts to be ahead in the market. Let's have a look what's happening out there in the industry in 2026. So as you all know, the big thing at the horizon is the construction products regulation that everybody is talking about. It started in 2025 when the general framework of the CPR went into force. And now in 2026, after the first year of the grace period, it's now the time when the first product categories are affected. So starting with just the GWP as a mandatory information that you need for the CE marking, there will be more indicators that follow later down the line. If we go to the next slide, we see that actually now the product category of cement, building lime, and the hydraulic binders are the first ones that will be the ones that are harmonized under the new CPR, meaning that this is the first product category where the GWP at least needs to be declared. But we always recommend, or we see, okay, if you do the effort and if you calculate the LCA to get the GWP, then you might also already declare more indicators, which will be mandatory anyways down the line. So we recommend to already look at the full picture and also look at all indicators right now. Next up for 2026, when now the harmonization request has been sent, is for doors, windows, shutters, and gates. And then coming up next, the reinforcing and pre-stressing steel. So if you work in these categories, let's also have a closer conversation and also exploration together of how what we are doing in the EMIDAT platform right now can really help you get ready for these requirements that happen in 2026. Great. And one more important point, the EU will provide one background database here as well for the LCA. There is currently a tender that is running. We see that it depends on the industry we're looking at. So for example, carbon mines, but also Sphera, EcoInvent, of course, are competing for these tenders. That the EU will provide as the background database so that LCAs are more comparable here. And as with everything when it comes to environmental data, EMIDAT will take care that we keep track of all these developments, and of course that you can also model your products in line with the standards on our platform. Great, then let's look a bit in more detail what we as EMIDAT actually have been doing or have been planning to keep you ahead in the game also in 2026. So first off, I'll do the first part and then I'll hand over back over to Lisa if that works. So the first thing, really, our digital product profile. So as we all know, within the construction products regulation, it's not just about the environmental data that needs to be part, but it will also become a requirement that instead of the DOPs, we have a digital form of the then so-called DOPCs, which is the digital product passport. So here's also something we would like to show you how the product profile already looks like, and how this will also evolve in our platform. And I think there was one question.
One hand, yeah. Should we take it?
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Who was that? Herr Hellendahl. Do you want to raise it? You can unmute or also raise it in the chat as you prefer.
Oh, okay. Then let's talk later. Yeah, do we want to show that on the platform?
Mm-hmm. So, moving over to the EMIDAT platform.
Great. Yeah, I hope everybody can see that. So what you see here is our what we call product profile. So you're familiar with that when you use our tool. Once you're done modeling a product, you end up seeing this product profile, visualizing the environmental impact here first. But then if you look further down, we also see indicators broken down into different stages, the technical specifications, the materials being used. And what we did when we released the last update to this page is already preparing a bit for the digital product passport thinking. So really seeing this page as a view of what the digital product passport as the truly digital data copy or digital twin of your product will be, to have a nice view to show that. And then when we go further down here, below the materials, the scenarios, so making assumptions once the product leaves your factory gate, to really understand or customize to the tailored construction site that you're working with. And then further down, different documents. So we also envision that to become then like a document container. So also if you have other certificates of the product or testing results, documentation that you have that will be required by the CPR, that this is your container you can then use and that you can also share with the market, and that might be linked to QR codes or some other identifiers on the physical product itself. Yeah, but the screen itself, that's what you already do see in the platform as we speak if you log on to the EMIDAT platform.
One addition here, which I think is one really cool part. Already today, and this was launched yesterday, so it's very new, you can share this profile via link. So essentially we're moving away a little bit from this pure document PDF logic where you see and use only the documents that are down here, like the EPD for example, but where you can actually work with the link. And the magic that happens when you do this is that then, for example, your customer can also customize the scenarios. So imagine you're now sending, say, a window to 2 different customers and they're located in 2 completely different places. Then they could, for example, say, well, but my LCA should look different because my construction site is not 100 kilometers away from your production site. My construction site is away 500 kilometers. And if I save this, then it immediately adjusts in my LCA and I can see it in the specific stage. And I think this is really starting then to become a bit more interactive. And we also see this with our customers, that they actually start using it to collaborate with their customers so that they can show, see, this is what would change if I, for example, take back the raw materials later on, if I exchange one raw material for a more sustainable one. So you can really start and use this as a business benefit. And go beyond just seeing this as a compliance burden. Good.
Yes, great. Thanks for that addition. Shall we go back to the slide overview?
Yeah.
For the next.
Happy. Yeah. Today, since we're doing a lot of product news, it's going to be a bit of jumping back and forth, but that's fine. So.
Okay, great. Next up is something we're also really excited about, following our vision and our mission to make transparent to the industry what the environmental impact of products is. It's what we call EMIDAT Atlas. So it's really a way that there's a free search, a free tool that people can use, that can be accessed, and where all published EPDs can be found in a very nice and comprehensive way. You can already try this out on your own computer right now. If you type in atlas.emidat.com, you should find the latest EPDs you have done with us or you already have done before EMIDAT existed. You can find them when you enter this address. And that's a very easy way to make them searchable and available to the bigger, wider world out there.
And I would say we do this right now. Is there anyone who would like to search something specific? Do you have anything specific in mind that you would like to see? You can also comment. Then we do it with one of the examples that are given here. For example, a wood alu window. Let's take this first one. So this is how the digital profile looks like. You can see that, of course, you can still find the PDF report. You find roughly 130,000 EPDs in there. So everything that is published within Europe and the United States. So it's really a great tool also to understand the industry a little bit better. For example, if you say produce pumps, then you can just type pumps here and it will search all the pumps for you, and you can look into, who has been doing EPDs here, and understand the market a little bit better. You also see which of those are specific or average EPDs, who has created them. You can also see which rules they're following, who published them, and who was responsible for it. This is all public information, so the only thing that the Atlas does here for you is make it easier to search and find this information. And I think also one important thing to mention here is that this will, as we understand more and more how the DPP platforms are supposed to look like, this will become a DPP compliant platform. So we already know that it will not be one central solution offered by the European Union, but that it will be similar to, for example, mobile phone providers or mobile number providers, where you are able to take your data and bring it to someone else. But the platforms that host your DPPs will likely be decentralized platforms by software providers like us. So this will become a DPP platform. And this is also what you can already see. It's slowly, I mean, it's still very focused on environmental impacts, but similar to the product profile, it's slowly evolving into a more also technical specification platform. Also switch views here. I want to show anything else specific?
No, I think that's a comprehensive overview.
Good. Great. Then moving back.
Thanks, Lisa. Then I think one final point I wanted to make before handing back over.
Let me just put the slides. Maybe it's easy. Here.
And as always, if there's questions in between, please already raise them so we can address them. Yeah, final one that on this topic, product comparison. So also, of course, one thing we want to incentivize that you can see how you are doing compared to your competitor, and we want you to show, okay, your efforts pay off, and that you are then doing better than your competition in the environmental performance. And that's why we have been thinking a lot about how can we enable a fair product comparison, and that's what we would like to show you next. Maybe you already are experts yourself because you have been using that feature on the platform, but a quick demo here as well.
Going back to our readiness example. Here you go. So on the top right here, compare feature. And you know that already previously it was possible to compare with your own model products. This sign here shows you this is one of your products, and that is of course still possible. But now you can also find products that are published and that you can also find in the EMID Atlas, for example. And what is interesting here is that it gives you warnings. For example, when it's different background databases used, say one uses Ecoinvent and one uses Stera, then the comparison is not ideal because you're basing it on different background databases. It doesn't really make sense. And you can see that's for most of the external EPDs true today. So don't rely on this data. This is also in every EPD on the first page. Just make sure that you're doing this responsibly. But what we learned from our customers is that their customers anyways compare, and that very often it's really completely wrong comparisons. Like for example, this one, not all mandatory indicators are declared. So you're comparing different life cycle stages. Also, they're using different standards, so they're basing the calculation off of different PCRs or even different norms. And in this case, even the EPD expired. And that would be a comparison that we then do not allow. And increasingly, you will also be able to share this with your customers so that you can show, hey, feel free to compare my product, but some of the comparisons that you're making at the moment do not really make sense.
That is actually one of the questions that came on how we can compare EPDs made on the basis of different PCRs.
Not at all. Well, I know it's a very unsatisfying answer, but this is exactly what the EU is working on. So with these harmonization requests and the harmonizations between product groups, they're also making sure that we're calculating in the same way. So for now a while, there will be small battles between the existing program operators, which calculation rules are the ones that will be used across the industry, but eventually we're expecting that they're comparable. Today, if you're calculating based on two different PCRs, it's just not very comparable.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as with any other feature that we show, we really appreciate if when you use it, what other cases or edge cases you experience, because for us only a feature is done when it also brings business value and when it brings value to you. Yeah. And as you take over, Lisa, I suggest we use your mic again because there were some comments that there's a lot of noise, and I think then your voice is more clear.
Okay. Works now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Good. So switching over to my mic again, last thing I would love to show here, one thing that is really powerful is also this little line that you see in the middle. What it is the median of ready-mix concrete. We have discussed this very much in the team because there's a couple of options which benchmarks you can use here. There's also, for example, sometimes association EPDs that can be used, and we've tried several things. The thing that seemed to make most sense at the moment is the median. So note that at the moment, it's still the most advanced manufacturers doing EPDs. That's also what you learned from the slide that Flo showed. We're still in this window of opportunity where you're one of the first movers. So you're still really early, and most of the EPDs that are on the market are showing the product data of the manufacturers that are doing best. But this is really helpful because it gives you an idea of where is the industry moving at the moment. So this median might also increase as more and more manufacturers are also required to do this data, and you can already compare your own products to an industry average. And this is, I think, really, really powerful. We're seeing it at least quite loved already by our users. Good. And then last thing you can do here is you can also highlight the largest value. So this is like already a small sneak peek into what will come even more in 2026, which is making it easier for you to also use this to then improve. Because usually the second question that comes when people have seen this is, okay, great, now how do I do better? And this is how you do better. You look into where are my hotspots within this product, and then you look into the details of the materials, like where is this coming from? So for example, if I then move back into my example product, I can also look into detail where are these emissions actually coming from, and then I can improve. Good. So then going a little bit further away from what is already out there over to what will come now in 2026. This is what we've now already talked about. This is Q1. You can use all of those today. What will now come for us in Q2, Q3, and then eventually also towards the end of the year. We will, of course, with our customers together, evolve on the DPP label and also do DOP pilots. What do we mean here? A lot of acronyms. So essentially, initially, we will enable our users to model and share a compliant DPP. We're expecting the very clear guideline on how DPP databases and DPP data standards are supposed to look like mid of 2026. So this is also the year where the data harmonization will happen. And this is where we can then also already preempt a little bit because we're like quite close to the pilot projects that are currently happening there. And because Flo already said, the first product groups that will be concerned are cement and building lime. We do have quite some cement and building lime customers and also window, gates and doors customers. And with those customers, we are doing DOP pilots, meaning we're taking their existing DOPs, looking how we can digitize them fast. So essentially they just drop their DOPs with us and we make sure that they get into their product profiles. And then I can give you a little sneak peek of what we're doing with the DPP there. So you've seen the product profile. You've also seen the Emidot Atlas. Both are core components of our DPP strategy. But then one more thing that will be coming up is that for every product that you model within the Emidot platform, you will essentially have a QR code. This is something we already showed first time last year at the BAU in Munich. And then with this QR code, you can put this on your product and you will find something like this. So a mobile version of the product profile that you also see in the desktop version. So that your customer also can eventually find, for example, maintenance instructions, very rough CO2 values, and potentially also take back values. So I think this is interesting in the sense that if you, for example, want to regain your raw material eventually, this is an amazing story that Flo told me at some point. We've heard, for example, for a steel manufacturer that they are finding ways to sell their product for less money. So they're able to provide a cheaper product in the market and win more deals with that. because they have a financial investor in the background who pays for an assumption that the value of steel will increase, and the steel manufacturer stays the owner of the steel. Building owner is very happy because the building will stand as long as they need it. Manufacturer is very happy because they can win the market. And the investor is also happy because they assume that steel will become more expensive. And I think these kind of models we're seeing more and more. Also, for example, in Windows, we see that manufacturers can differentiate because they have a much better LCA if they guarantee that they take back the materials. And now the most forward-thinking manufacturers are already looking into, okay, what do I do with this raw material? Can I actually reuse it? Can I maybe make even my production less expensive if I reuse it? Which of course is not feasible for all products, but for some it is. And I think there's a lot of potential to be explored here. Good. Then next up, I will not jump over to the slides now. I will just jump straight into what will happen next. Is what we call a new publication center. You might know at the moment in the MEDAT app here, you just have the verify button. And then you choose essentially which program operator you want to publish with, and accordingly, we give you a preview of the EPD. This is already super powerful. It's actually one thing that I think no one else really does in this way, collaborate with several different program operators across the world. But it is also very much focused on the old way of doing environmental data. So publishing a PDF with a program operator that, frankly, very few people really understand. So what will change here is, and this is now a very first mock-up, so don't take this as a finished product, but what will change here now is that this button on the top right will essentially change into a publication center. Where you can then choose a region. So essentially, where do you want to publish? Who is your customer? Where are they located? Who is using it? And if you, for example, say, okay, I'm based in Europe, then it suggests language English. So you will very soon also be able to output EPDs in several languages if you want to. It also suggests a few program operators. And if you choose EPD Global, it also automatically, for example, selects eco platform. Same, of course, with EPD International and all the others as well. Now going back, sorry. Yeah, let's see how much longer I survive. This has only been going on for a day. We can then see, okay, which languages do I publish, with which program operator, and in which databases does it actually land. And I think this is something that I've actually heard a couple of times. We're working mostly with large to very large manufacturers. You are quite often selling to multiple different geographies. And with this, you can then also serve your local market. And eventually our vision here is that really when you share this digital link of the product profile, that your customer can even choose in which language they want to see the declarations and work with this.
We have one question.
Okay.
It's just, should we choose it from the beginning before starting the LCA, or is this something that can be changed within or during any stage of the process? So even after the LCA has been done.
In terms of results, I assume, so calculation results.
I think it's prepared on the market and the languages that you want to, let's say, publish.
So the languages don't really change anything. You can publish multiple different languages with the same program operator. That's no problem at all. What does have an influence is the program operator you choose here. So if you, for example, choose INEAS, then, or even Smart EPD, the norm changes quite significantly sometimes. And with this, then also the calculation values change. So this is an excellent question if we're talking about the same thing, and help me if you meant something different. Because and this is already true for the product today. So if I choose INEAS here, then it adjusts to the calculation rules of INEAS. So there's quite a heavy LCA lifting happening in the background. And this means that the values that you find in the INEAS EPD and also that you find in the background report for INEAS will likely be different values than the ones that you find in the EPD Global EPD. And the way we're currently debating how we want to do this. So either we keep it rather in the background and you use it for the local markets, but for nothing else, or we will also enable you here to toggle and switch between the product profiles. So you also see this simpler view with the different values. At the moment, it is kind of hidden because the values adjust to the local calculation rules, but you can only see the difference in the EPD. I hope that answers the question. And here then also, so this is relevant for the calculation up front, because, for example, it also influences which raw material data sets you're allowed to choose. So this is where we will likely, in the account setup in the very beginning, ask you already these questions that I asked here in the beginning. Where do you want to publish? And then if you say, I'm only publishing in Europe, and yes, obviously France is part of Europe, but very different calculation rules. And if you're publishing with European standards, then you would only see the input data that is relevant for you. If you already in the beginning say I publish in Europe and the US, then you would also be able to select the datasets, or you would be forced to select the datasets both for Europe and for the US.
I think there's a small clarification here. Okay. So they're asking, can we switch and keep switching and compare between different POs at the end?
Yes, you can. So even now, you can switch. The moment where, and this is now the problem at the moment, we do have quite some customers that publish the same product with different POs. And then once they click here, continue and publish, then it's published, and then they cannot change it anymore. Now, with this new publication center concept, you will be able to publish multiple times. And with this, then also see the different declarations and look at both later on. So it will not be one publish anymore. But for example, here you would then publish 2 declarations and see both. Hope that answers the question. Good. Then now I'm jumping back into the slides for a moment, just so you see the overview quickly. So then there's 2 a bit bigger topics for us. It's actually 2 of our really strategic goals also for the first half of the year. We put it here in Q3 because this is where we assume that the first customers will notice it and give feedback and will iterate on it. But we're already starting to work on it now. One thing is what we call value from data. So at the moment, a lot of our customers are sort of working with us and caught up with modeling for the very first time, or modeling because their 5-year-old EPD has expired. We think this will change quite significantly in the future. We think that creating the LCA will be, sure, the first step, the baseline, but that the real value will come from actually using this data across the company. And using this data, we mean using it in sales, like with product comparisons, like with project-specific EPDs. This is something you have here with project EPDs. Also potentially for compliance topics like the corporate reporting for CSRD. This is something we will enable so that you can kind of summarize product data into a corporate sustainability report. Note, we will not be doing corporate sustainability reporting, that's important, but we will enable you to summarize the product data and use it in this report. So the product data, summarize, use it. And then, of course, also using it in R&D. I think this is the biggest and most interesting topic here, that you can then actually, once you see the information, once you've used it in sales, also start improving your product. And going back a few slides before, this is really where this window of opportunity kicks. You are one of the few who has this data already today. Today in Europe, there's about 2,500 manufacturers that have EPDs. With the construction products regulation, this is a public number by the EU, there will be 430,000 manufacturers that are required to have verified LCAs. They will not be named EPDs then. So you can really use this window of opportunity to improve your physical product. And when everybody needs to publish this data, you're the ones who already have the more sustainable product. And again, you have a competitive advantage. And this is really what we mean when we say business value from what we're doing here. Good. Going back, or is there any question?
There's a little bit of a follow-up from the last question. It's mainly about the reality of when an EPD is published. So right now we're being asked about what the verification steps are. Is AI playing some role here in the verification? And once you publish with a particular PO, is there an extra charge for you as a manufacturer? Especially if you want to compare between different POs and EPDs.
Yes, there is a different charge. So essentially, when you decide for a program operator, they all have different publication costs. And so it's sort of two questions, no? Like one is the piece of how does the verification work, and then two is the piece of how is the pricing working. So essentially, verification in the model that EMIDAT, and EMIDAT is pretty unique in this, I think. Well, I don't think I know, but I know that also some of our other market, you say Marktbegleiter in German. I don't know the English word for that, but some of the other market participants are very flexible in the modeling. But then you also cannot really guarantee that the modeling was done correctly, so you need a verification in the end. Now, what EMIDAT does a little bit different is that we always implement the specific product group. And in the very beginning of your modeling process, we ask you, what products do you want to model today? And then based on this, we guide you already within the boundaries of the respective PCR, of the product category rule. And this makes it much easier or much shorter to verify in the end. And what the program operator does is they and their verifiers verify this LCA logic, based on the product category rule. But also, when you now submit an EPD today, there is like a final check happening on your input data. So that's like a small check, but it is still a final check that happens both with plausibility checks, but then also the PO checks and also an LCA expert at EMIDAT and at the manufacturer check. So there's like essentially like a triple check. And this doesn't cost anything with EMIDAT, so that is included in the license, but the program operator charges a publication fee. And this publication fee ranges anywhere from 35 euros to roughly 300, 450 euros, depending on the program operator. But happy to inform in a little bit more detail here. Yeah, so reach out afterwards anytime.
Yeah, and I think same for the next question I see coming up. Looks like quite specific, so I suggest let's do a follow-up there.
Okay.
More tailored on your product request that I see. Unfortunately, I don't see the name, so I suggest let's go into more detail then after.
Okay. All right. We have our names and email addresses also in the end if you want to reach out then. Good. And then besides this value from data, so again, different parties within your company will be able to start using this environmental data through the EMIDAT platform. A second piece is really one complaint that we keep hearing over and over and over again is data collection is so complicated. And 2026 will be the year where EMIDAT addresses this issue. So far, we've said, here you have our formats, please put in your data. We will now increasingly also make sure that we adjust to your data formats. And this will be done in two ways. One is we will provide an API. So if you have this data in a digital format, you can feed the API. And two is it will be much easier to use existing documents or existing data and just drop it. And what do we mean here? Very often, some of the biggest hurdles, and this is also a huge source of mistakes or errors that can happen, is that, for example, you have the same information, but in different units. So you might have raw material in meters, and we ask for a kilogram. And then if you don't have the density of the product, you don't know it. So people are running around putting meter products on a scale to understand the weight. And this is really what we don't want you to spend your time on. So what we will do here is that we put like smarter data collection mechanisms in there. Another thing will be you just give us the addresses of your suppliers and we will auto calculate the transportation distances. So just making data collection much easier for you. And on all of these things that you see here. So the DPP pilots, also the publication center, the drop your data stuff. If anything resonates with you and if you feel like this is relevant in your company, we would love to have a chat. You can see an email address here, is feedback@emida.com. Probably you also have an email address from us directly anyways. Let's talk. So most of you probably know that we are working super closely with our customers, that we love to also get feedback on designs before things are launched. And this is really your chance to influence the direction that we're going as a platform before things are launched, and maybe also test them early before everyone else gets access. So yeah, feel free to reach out and let's develop this together to make sure that you get most value out of it. Good. We did questions and answers in between, but if there is any more, then we're very happy to take them out, or if there's any additions.
Yeah, I think one that just came up also connected to data collection. So will this be available to current users and then work with the current method? Yes, of course, it will be closely connected. I mean, we already do have a version 1 of the API, which will be upgraded into a version 2. So this is just an upgrade and making it more stable. And then the second part, kind of really think about it, or I mean, this is early discovery phase, so we don't know how exactly the solution will look like. But what we think really is, you know, drag and drop almost. You have different Excel files where you collected info. If you're stored in Excel files, upload them in another field or another page on the tool, and then it will fill or work with the data points that you see right now. That's what we are thinking. So we're not building a new product here, but it will be integrated into the existing product.
Yeah. Any more questions?
No, it's just about the pricing, that there was a discussion on if it's actually 35 euros for publishing the EPD or if it can be actually higher. There's a little bit of a discussion going on right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it really depends on the program operator. If so, the price, I mean, this is also no secret. EPD Global charges 35 euros. If, and that's important, if Emidat already paid for the verification of the tool. So I think that's an important hint, that this is usually not the price that you achieve if you submit an EPD where this this boundary of the PCR hasn't been made sure yet. So this is probably a pricing that you barely see in the market, because usually a lot more checks need to happen. And it's often something that I show already in demos when, for example, the platform checks, does the amount or the weight of the recipe add up with the density of the product? These are kind of sanity checks that usually a verifier would make, or is there cement in the concrete? Things like this. And actually, we get this from the verifiers. So the verifiers will test our tool with like 100 different inputs. And then if they find places where they can go outside the PCR boundaries or outside plausible boundaries, then they tell us, hey, this shouldn't be feasible. And then that's where we kind of preempt the feedback that usually comes from the verifier only in the very end after you submit this. I hope this makes sense. So this makes verification more expensive then, if it's longer and more in depth, because the PCR hasn't been verified before.
Perfect. I don't see any other questions.
Amazing. That's good. So I think just to wrap things up here, here again, you have our email addresses. Thank you so much for joining today. We're very excited and do not get any less ambitious. We've been growing very fast, and we will continue to do so. So yeah, we're excited to keep building with you, and we're excited to make it much easier and also much cheaper to create verified LCAs for all products in the world. This is now where the silent claps happen. Good. Yeah, reach out if you have any questions. You know our emails here. So that is florian@emidat.com for Flo and lisa@emidat.com for me. And then, of course, if you have any product feedback, anytime write us to feedback@emidat.com or to your responsible customer success manager if you already have that person. Thanks for joining.
And if you happen to be in Munich, our office is very close to the central station. Come say hi, let's grab lunch, meet the team, and see who we are behind the scenes.
Exactly. Perfect.
Perfect. One more note on my side. You will receive a recording of the session afterwards, also with a link to talk to us. So I hope you enjoyed and Happy New Year's.
Perfect. Happy New Year.
Bye.